Mr. Robot is back for its fourth and final season with a premiere episode that makes it very clear it's going to be a hard, crazy race to the finish where anything can happen to anyone. It's Mr. Robot, 401 Unauthorized. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to the return of Mr. Robot. So yes, of course, all the spoilers coming straight your way. And if you haven't caught any of our other reviews, we do have a new quick jump index system. Just take a look down in the description below. We'll have this entire review codified, titleized, time-coded. You can watch the end of the review first. You can watch the beginning last. You can go like into those crazy Angela dazes. Watch it all in reverse, in any order you would like. All right, so let's get into things straight away. Look, I gotta tell you, it's been a while since the last season, and I was a little trepidatious coming into this. Wasn't sure how I was gonna feel, wasn't sure if the same magic was gonna be there, wasn't sure how interesting. I mean, the first season of Mr. Robot was great. The second one, good, okay, had its issues. I thought the return on season 3 was amazing. Really loved Bobby Carnival and that. I hope he comes back. But just the way that everything was moving and the sort of craziness and the idea of time travel was just, I didn't know how to feel coming into this new season. And those concerns were dispensed within minutes. And again, it was just a very crazy, hard-hitting episode. And I think the idea of how they opened the episode of doing our previously on and showing everything that's sort of happening, caught up, and then continuing, starting the episode sort of butt-ended right up to those. We saw a last scene that we saw last season, and they just sort of started the episode right off. It was a little disjointing, I have to say, and I think that was completely intentional. The idea of, again, just sort of throwing us off, keeping us in there, keeping us off balance. Again, sort of a big recurring theme throughout this episode with that overarching threat of White Rose and the Dark Army on Elliot and everyone connected to him and anyone associated with the Dark Army. It was done just very well. So it was a great initial setup, keeping us off balance and showing us just the stakes, dropping Angela straight off in the very beginning tells you that anything can happen. And then later on, seeing with whole Fred's death, and of course the end with Elliot, though not permanent as that was, really are saying the threat is real. It's all around you. You have no idea who it is. It could be anyone. It could be on you at any moment, and you are not safe. No one is. That's what this episode firmly established. And like I said, if this is our primer for the rest of the season, it's going to be one crazy ride. So you may have noticed a little different titling than they have done in previous seasons. You know, normally it's an episode number, we get a nice sort of quirky title, and it's followed up by a file type. And the file type usually sort of gives us a little insight onto what's happening through that episode. Now that, of course, works exactly the same as it does with this episode, 401 Unauthorized. Though, not an episode name, and of course with 401, we have all seen that running through the web, a lot of 404 as well. These are all web page error codes. So being fourth season, that's probably going to be our continuing theme throughout this. 401, of course, is an unauthorized. It basically means that you need to have signed in with a login and a password in order to access this bit of information. You are an uncredited access right now. And that's very much what Elliot is throughout this. We kick things off. I mean, we have that great, very brutal opener with Angela's death and Philip's reaction to it. And then we kind of do our 2-month jump forward. So everything seems to be happening right here around Christmas. And from what Elliot has said, in 1 week, White Rose is going to be able to ship out her stuff to the Congo. That's the way that he sort of set up his shipping program. So in 1 week from now, White Rose gets what she wants, and everybody is now expendable. So I think we're getting a lot of this action this season happening in this very short week around Christmas. Now, for Elliot, what he's basically doing here is his crazed run for revenge against White Rose. I mean, not only is it the death of Angela that he is sort of shooting revenge for, but it's also sort of the concern with the 5'9" hack, and he has talked with Mr. Robot about this later on, that the effects, they wanted to change the world, but people are already forgetting about it. People are already adjusting to the new way of life, and soon they won't remember anything. All the work that they have done would be for nothing. So Elliot is very much caught up in a crazed focus of revenge and trying to finish what he started. And one of the nice things that they do throughout this episode, I think, is illustrate the concern that Mr. Robot is having for Elliot. It's always been a very fun dynamic between these two, whether it be them fighting for control or, as over the past season or so, them starting to work together, which is always so much fun. Rami Malek and Christian Slater together, they work so well in scenes. They have a great communication. They've got a very nice kind of silent body language reactions. All very subtle stuff, but they work so really well together. So I love seeing them actually in their interactions, not to mention just sort of the character dynamic between Elliot and Mr. Robot. And while Mr. Robot has been sort of the crazed obsessive one previously, and not that he's really changed that much on it, it has kind of switched. Elliot was the one looking for friends. Mr. Robot was the one focused on the mission. And now they've kind of switched positions. We're seeing a lot more of that caring, concern part of Mr. Robot that we were starting to see in last season. And even to some effect all the way back in season 2 as well. I mean, he is there kind of for protection. But it's a very interesting switch. Even to the point where we have Mr. Robot now addressing us as the audience. And I love that whole sequence of the kind of concern and breakdown and opening up from Mr. Robot's perception that Elliot is going to need a friend. And he doesn't care about us, but that's who we are, is we are Elliot's other sounding board. And we're definitely going to be needed. So it's a fun little switch. It's a great way, again, of seeing the effects of this PTSD of dealing with the Dark Army and White Rose and that ever-present threat, and how that is affecting Elliot and sort of his psychoses. Well, I mean, not psychoses so much, but certainly a sense of focus. And I think that's Mr. Robot's biggest thing, is that obsession means that you're going to focus on small points and miss the larger picture. And by missing the larger picture, you're going to walk right into traps. And there are a few traps in this episode, some of which Elliot is orchestrating, some of which he is more caught up in. But let's jump into the former first, and that is, of course, our initial break-in or attempted break-in, our unauthorized access here via Fred the Lawyer, played by Jake Busey. I love seeing Jake. He's always so good at playing kind of a bit of a scumbag. I'm just saying, he's really good at orchestrating that. And of course, we're seeing Elliot here from a position of power. You know, he's doing his old things. He has electronically gotten into somebody's life, found the bad things that they do, and turn it around and use it on them in order to get what he needs. Well, I mean, a lot of times, it's just letting the police know who's there and sort of letting them pay for that. Here, again, he's looking for a bit more manipulation. Blackmail is always very helpful for that, and Elliot's always good at finding those secrets. Beautifully done. Again, just the USB sent a little note. Here, click this in. This is what you've been doing. And if you don't want anybody else to see it, you're going to do what I need to do. Which, of course, gets him down to our Scene of the Week for this week, and that is, of course, the train station. The whole train station. It's a beautiful bit. And like I said, this is Elliot in a position of power, doing just all of the cool stuff, all right on top of things. This is where you're going. These are the people around. We're keeping an eye on everything there. Fred has no idea what is going on, and they tell it beautifully from Mr. Robot's perspective, both from the phone call initially to Fred while he's in his office, and then of course guiding him throughout the train station, seeing Mr. Robot there in the background. From our sense of perspective, we are thinking, of course, that's Elliot, and he's watching things, and this is just sort of in that Mr. Robot persona. Handled all beautifully well. I mean, I love the misdirect. I love the fact that, of course, they're tapped into all the screens. They're watching who's following. He knows that the Dark Army is right on top. We're catching all of our threats immediately on. If the Dark Army first killing out Angelo wasn't one thing, here, ever present, right behind Fred, it is, again, establishes that constant threat that's right behind the door. Again, the misdirection was all great. I love the crumpling of the dollars and throwing it in for the musician there, because of course if he's hiding a USB or any type of information, he could hide it crumpled up in dollars and drop down. That's going to sort of draw their attention. So I mean, it was a whole kind of beautiful setup, wonderfully executed maneuver. And at the end, when we find out that Elliot himself has been in the train station the entire time, Mr. Robot out there in the world has only served to illustrate his eyes effectively. He's tapped into the security system, so he is effectively inside the train station. So that's where his projected persona of Mr. Robot is. It was just, again, a cool way of seeing the two of them working together in a very unobvious way, and just ending it with the line is, "I've been in the train waiting for you this entire time." It's just, it's so cool. It's just one of those that just got me going immeditely. And from there, of course, we see where the control starts to fall away, which is another great bit in this sequence. I mean, that was the one scene. We get our two following scenes, the one actually in the train and the one right outside, where we get to see Elliot's control assert itself. I mean, very strongly when Fred pulls out the gun. Elliot doesn't even shake. He's just, what, you're going to shoot me in front of all these people? If you do that, all the stuff's going to send out anyway. Just sit down. It's not. Again, a position of complete control. To slowly falling apart. I mean, again, as he's talking and he's going through the computers and he's bringing everything up, we're seeing how fast he's working, how much he's connecting, exactly what he's doing. This is Elliot in the position, and as soon as he notices the Dark Army still coming, that Fred had forgotten a key, it all started to go, well, really more in the moments before that, when John Garcin's name starts to be dropped, that there might be some other bit of information, something that Elliot didn't know and can't connect to White Rose, Ji Zhang, at that moment. So that sort of throws him off. And then from there we get the discovery of the Dark Army coming down, and the card that has the little blue Bluetooth connector on it. Have to drop that, go out, control is going out. He's trying to assert. And the more now that he's separated, the more that Fred can see what's going on, the more he realizes, in fact, that there is nothing that Elliot can do for him. There is no protection. Elliot is not interested in that. He is so obsessed, he doesn't care about taking care of anyone. Now, admittedly, this guy's doing some strange stuff online, and not a good individual, by far. But it was a beautiful sequence as Fred is trying to reach out and like, oh, you just got to be sure you can protect me, right? You can protect my family. You can realize, and then it's just a beautiful dawning moment that there's nothing Elliot can do. All he can do is have this threat over him and the appearance of control. And at that point, everything falls apart. Fred realizes he takes him out. Now Elliot doesn't have that for control. He's got a name, but nothing else. And it's, again, that perfect movement of Elliot from complete control at the beginning to by the end showing how little control he actually has. Now, of course, Elliot isn't the only one feeling the oppressive effects and dangers that the Dark Army and White Rose represent. First off, we have, of course, Darlene, not doing too well. definitely sliding downhill. It's kind of interesting. She was trying to hold Angela together last season as Angela was sort of spiraling down and out. And here, of course, we see that sort of just transferring right over Darlene, obsessed with trying to find Angela. Is she really dead? And really coked out, like I said, not doing well in the head. I did kind of think kind of interesting. I understand in that moment where Elliot and Mr. Robot are talking about Mr. Robot brings up, why didn't you just show her the photograph that White Rose had sent us that has Angela, shot in the head. And they did a beautiful single frame insert in that scene of just a quick flash. If you pause it, you can actually catch it. It is a beautiful shot. Well, I mean, not beautiful. It's a well done shot of just Angela with a bullet in the head. Just a nice, perfect kind of insert, just so you know that it's there, but you don't have to dwell on it. It's just that image and thought. But the idea that for Darlene that they would destroy her. And maybe it would, but you could actually tell her that you saw a picture of Angela dead, and thus that's how you know, and not just say that she is dead. I don't know. Elliot could have handled things differently, but we're seeing Elliot kind of separate. That's Mr. Robot's concern here, is Elliot is separating and pulling away and compartmentalizing everything, not really engaging with everyone's problems. And not being helpful in that sense. And we're just, again, throughout this seeing Darlene sort of, even back at her apartment, just falling apart as people are going in and getting into Angela's clothes and kicking everyone out. She's just cracking. She's cracking under the pressure. Tyrell dealing with some pressure as well. We only see a brief bit. He's the CTO now. He's big. He's important. Everybody loves him. Not dealing with that pressure well also. Again, just worn out, overwhelmed, doesn't want to engage. Same thing really for Dom, though a little more paranoia on her part. Also, not looking good. None of these people are really looking good. Tyrell, I mean, he's got makeup and people and stuff that can sort of help that out. Nobody else. For Dom, of course, last was a threat to her mom, so we got Dom living with her mom. That sort of makes sense, could sort of help out. Mom doesn't really seem to be working too well with Dom's concerns, but how much can she actually tell her? No, really, you need to vet everyone for me so A, I don't shoot the plumber in your bathroom, and B, so you aren't like strangled or murdered or slit open from top to bottom, as is later on alluded to. She can't really tell that. But Dom, under that concern, and also apparently avoiding work, not going back in, has to wrap up her boss's stuff, has to wrap up Santiago's stuff, and she's sort of pushing that off, which leads to our attempted setup. It was nice of Mom to try and do that. But again, lovely little bit with our taxidermist showing the far reach of the Dark Army. I mean, again, it's uncomfortable around the dinner table. That was set up. We get an attempted flirting and then an apology. And then as she's walking away, don't forget you got that meeting about Santiago tomorrow. You've been putting that off. You got to clear that up. I would hate to have to do something terrible to your mom. Just so dark. And again, the real threat, I think is illustrated perfectly here of the Dark Army, is they don't care about themselves. She's like, go ahead and kill me. There'll be other people right behind me. It doesn't even phase. I mean, in some ways we see that with Elliot in the beginning on the train when the gun is to his head and he's like, go ahead and shoot me. The damage would still be done to you. But this is a little even kind of worse because it's Elliot partially bluffing, but having some automatic. This is just really an actual not caring about your life or knowing how insignificant that is because the threat will still be carried through. It's a beautiful way of just making everything so get the paranoia in, which is really what everybody should be feeling, maybe Elliot a little bit more. So Elliot's got White Rose's bank, Cypress Bank, and he's got a name, John Garcin, which just gets him a little too confident that the end is near, that his goal is reachable, that it's almost within his grasp. And of course, that's the point when you lose your focus. That's the point where your paranoia, which you should be holding on to very firmly, betrays you. And that, of course, ends up in John Garcin's building. A whole beautiful little sequence right there. I mean, of course, we're getting our concern from Mr. Robot leading us into us, talking to us as the audience. Need you to look at, need you to be a friend when he is needed. A very important line by the time this whole wraps up, because I love the setup for the lobby. I love the guy yelling into his phone, kind of drowning everything out. The security guy just like nodding and sending up. Everything seems very normal. Not for Mr. Robot, who of course is concerned that this is the quietest building in Manhattan. A definite concern. And it's great because he keeps throwing these bits of concern, these heads up, this little flashing red light in the Elliot should be seeing in the corner of his eye, but he's obsessed. He is too focused to see the bigger picture here. Great setup, just walking in. Should be concerned the door is open. It opens up with a little knock. That it is. Perfect honeypot. So come on in. Exactly what you want in here. Nobody's here. Look around. Get your bearings. Get your stuff. We'll just shut the door, find you, lock you in, and then call up security to come and drag you out. Perfect. And again, the scene where we have Mr. Robot walking through and just putting the thick dust. I mean, again, just the firm sign that nobody is here. We're seeing the tags on the lamp still. This is a complete setup. It's wonderfully done. And the drag out of the elevator, I love that from the perspective of the security cameras. Seeing Elliot, and of course. And again, these are wonderful little moments that they do here when we're expecting it's going to be Mr. Robot and Elliot, but no, there's only Elliot. There's only one person they've got to drag out. Those are moments that catch me. I always enjoy it. But he's fighting, he's dragging. We got the music going on as it just drops down. We're catching all of the shots within the security cams, and then it's up, and then we just see him sort of leave the lobby. Just a beautifully done sequence of just suckering you in with your confidence and showing you the pain and loss of what that's going to cost you. And for Elliot, that's his life. And what a shocker! I mean, yes, we start things off with Angela's death. We get, okay, Fred, suicide. I mean, we don't really know the guy, we just met him, but still, that's a life. We're seeing the threat to Dom there, showing how ever-present throughout every scene, really, the Dark Army is. And then here with Dom just suckering right up with just like, yeah, I could do this to your mom, so you better get to work. Oh, but thank her for the casserole. It's going to be delicious. We've felt all of this ever-present death, and now we've got Elliot strapped to a chair, going to be heroin overdosed and taken out. My God. It's a one-episode season. They take care of everything. And they ran through it, and I think that was the best part, by ending it with that whole kind of final end sequence. The guy's screaming out, he's trying to call everything, he's threatening as much as he can, because all he's got is words. And our killer just comes up and kneels down. Goodbye, friend. Which is the perfect, I mean, come on, that's a perfect way to end it. That's how the show started, with Elliot looking at us, hello, friend. And now it ends with Elliot's death with a goodbye, friend. What a beautiful kind of full circle bit. And the going out and the seeing the image of his mom and his dad and even him, his little self, that projections of things that he interacts with. I mean, it's just a beautiful sequence. Shocking. My God, what the heck are they going to do with the rest of the season? But then they get you. It's a fake ending. It's a little cheap, sure. But there are anti-heroin meds. There's this overdose stuff sprayed right into the mouth. Wakes up, and there's Philip, who, of course, again, perfectly bookends everything. We get the two major deaths, one return, but we're seeing Philip here now with setting up his revenge. He's going to save Elliot to go after White Rose, and he's got every reason to hate White Rose and a lot of resources to go after. So, yeah, it was a little cheap, but kind of a cool way to wrap everything up. And like I said, showed the real danger everyone is facing. All right, just a couple of small things. First off, speaking of Philip, loved, again, that opening scene, so intense. This loss of Angela there, and that great pause moment where she turns. You can tell that she sees the people up there, sees the Dark Army, as soon as she says, I'm gonna keep going. You're never gonna stop me. And it was a beautiful kind of switch and view in the whole loss. I mean, really strong, harsh opening scene. Really beautifully done. But the following one was also really cool. When he gets inside and he gets the phone call from White Rose and he's having that whole interaction. White Rose is like, you tried to stop her, you tried to tell her, you gave her the chance. Again, just jabbing back, keeping Fisher in line, but still jabbing. And the whole thing was shot single camera on a handheld, which made, again, it allows the camera to move and do everything, but it keeps everything kind of rough. And it really helped maintain and display the emotion of that scene, of Fisher's anger, Philip's anger and his frustration and his lack of control, and just how they were able to move the camera around in that. Really beautiful job of camera work, and a wonderful choice to have the cinematography reflect and magnify the emotion that's happening in the scene. You may have noticed at the beginning, the episode was dedicated to Steve Golan. Steve Golan was one of the executive producers on Mr. Robot from right at the beginning there, and he passed away this past April. So, always hard to lose someone who's been in the business for a long time, done lots of great stuff. So our condolences out to his family and the cast and crew. We had a couple of great lines from Mr. Robot while he was on the phone with Fred there in the beginning. The first one, of course, is Fred is sort of freaking out, and we get that long pause, and he just comes back. I was taking a moment to see if I gave an F. I don't. So mean. And also, as Fred is sort of freaked out in the line and looking all around, he says, stop looking around like a coked up Henry Hill. Of course, referring to Henry Hill from Goodfellas, the end when he's all coked out and freaked out and everything. So, yeah, just sort of a perfect line, wonderfully delivered. And of course, he was a little coked up there. Kind of a recurring theme this episode. Fred, Darlene, not good in these circumstances. And in case you guys were curious, the murderer at the end, the gentleman who gives Elliot the fatal shot and says, goodbye, friend. Also the gentleman, I believe, that resuscitates him and is standing next to Fisher when Elliot wakes up, is Sam Esmail, the director, writer, and creator of Mr. Robot. So, always nice when the creator can kind of stick himself in. It's sort of a perfect point with goodbye, friend. He is kind of the person Elliot's speaking to in a way, responding back to him. So, I thought that was a cool little moment. All right, well, I think we'll go ahead and wrap things up then. So, yeah, final season of Mr. Robot. And if this is any indication, like I said, it's going to be a crazy ride. Any hesitancy I had coming into this, gone. Cannot wait till next week. Cannot wait for this next episode. And I hope that you can join me with it. So, as usual, thank you so much for joining me with these reviews. And if you enjoyed watching them, just please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, and comments, throw those down in the section below. What do you guys think about this opener? Were you excited for this season? Were you a little hesitant with myself? How did you think? And did you like the ending, the whole kind of like fake Elliot death? Did I work for it? Did you feel a little cheap? Anyway, let me know whatever you guys are thinking. Throw your thoughts down in the section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Now we are just kicking off the final season of Mr. Robot. We have also started our 10th season of The Walking Dead, also on Sunday nights. Those reviews will be coming out Sunday night. These reviews come out on Monday morning. And then coming up on November 12th, we have The Mandalorian, the new Star Wars series over on Disney+. Cannot wait. Very excited for that. And I hope you can join me with those reviews as well. You can if you're a subscriber. You won't miss anything. Do that by clicking this button right here. This button right here. I knew it was somewhere here. click this button right here, and we'll throw up a couple of our latest reviews right here for you to check out. So, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.